From the very first days he can remember, Clint Howard grew up inside the Andy Griffith Show. At 4 or 5 years old, he was the kid asked to wait quietly while the adults worked. The lights, the grips moving gear, the low murmur before action, that rhythm became a second home. What he saw was more than a TV set. It was a town called Mayberry, built by people who believed in a simple idea: tell a warm, decent story and protect its heart. Clint's memories anchor us behind the camera, in the black and white era. No one worried about the color of a wall or a shirt. What mattered was texture and contrast, how the frame felt. Most days on the soundstage were steady and disciplined. The days outside on Mayberry's streets were pure fun. A small miracle of sun, sidewalk, and teamwork. At home, his dad's collection of monster masks and old movie gizmos fired a child's imagination, while his mom kept the family steady and strong. This is Mayberry as it really worked, seen by someone who was there. Clint remembers being small enough to look up at the world of adults and understand one rule: stand over here and wait. While cameras were being lined up and marks were taped to the floor, he learned to be still, to listen for the rhythm of quiet, rolling, action. That discipline wasn't scolding, it was care. The crew made space for him, letting a curious 4 or 5-year-old watch how a scene is built, one careful adjustment at a time. What drew him in were the simple wonders: the glow of a key light warming a face, the clap of a slate, the way a set that looked like a real living room from one angle turned into lumber and ladders from another. He saw that nothing just happens. Someone moved a chair half an inch. Someone powdered a forehead. Someone fixed a squeaky hinge so a laugh could land clean. To a child, those tiny fixes felt like magic tricks hiding in plain sight. Little by little, the stage stopped feeling like a place you visit and started feeling like a place you belong. Clint found comfort in the routine: the morning hellos, the reset after a blown line, the friendly wave from a grip as he coiled cable. It was a second home built on patience and repetition, where even waiting had a purpose. Clint remembers a set where good humor wasn't a perk. It was part of the job. People showed up ready to work and ready to laugh. A flubbed line meant a reset and a smile, not an eye roll. Between takes, small jokes ran like a quiet current through the crew. That lightness wasn't sloppy. It kept everyone loose enough to be sharp when the bell rang. Respect set the tone. Actors thanked electricians for a clean light. Camera and sound traded small favors to save a shot. If someone needed an extra minute to get it right, they got it. Because the goal was shared land, a scene that felt honest. Days could be long, but the temperature stayed steady. You felt it in the rhythm blocking, rehearsal. Take like a well-tuned band keeping time. That atmosphere bled into the show itself. Warmth on screen came from warmth off screen. The town of Mayberry worked because the people building it believed in one another. For a kid watching from the edge of the stage, that was the lesson: kindness is a craft decision, and it shows up in the frame. Clint remembers one constant on the stage: Andy kept the heart of the show right in front of everyone. The target was never flashy. Tell a warm, decent story and protect its tone. If a gag bent the characters out of shape, it was trimmed. If a moment felt honest, it was given room to breathe. That was Andy's compass, and people trusted it. He set a quiet kind of authority. Notes came, ideas floated, but Andy filtered them with care. The crew knew why a line stayed or went, because the reason was always the same: stay true to Mayberry. He valued economy. When a scene had it, he moved on. When it didn't, he pushed for one more take, not louder, just cleaner. Writers and directors were given space to do their best work, and in return, they guarded the voice of the show. The result was a mood you could feel. No cheap cynicism, no frantic pace. Conflicts resolved with dignity. Laughs earned, not forced. From the sidelines, a kid like Clint could see it plainly. Confidence without noise. That steady hand didn't just lead the set. It shaped what millions saw on screen. On the Andy Griffith Show, shooting in black and white shaped every choice long before anyone called action. Color didn't matter. Value did. A wall could be green or red off camera, but on film it had to land as the right shade of gray so faces wouldn't disappear. Wardrobe wasn't picked for fashion, but for how it separated from the set. Fabrics with a little tooth and matte finish read better than shiny ones that blew out under a key light. Patterns were tested because some looked busy or shimmered on camera. Small checks or thin stripes could turn muddy, so the team leaned on solids or gentle textures that gave depth without stealing attention. Makeup followed the same logic. Rather than chasing natural skin tones, artists sculpted with light and shadow, adding shape that the grayscale camera could actually see. A touch more contour, a subtler lip, and suddenly an expression popped. Set dressers painted to the lens, a mid-gray sofa, a darker doorframe, a lighter lampshade, each chosen so the frame stacked in layers instead of flattening out. Lighting tied it all together. A clean key, a careful fill, and a thin rim pulled actors off the background. The result wasn't an accident. It was craft tailored to black and white, where honesty of tone, not color, carried the town of Mayberry. Most days lived inside four walls, quiet and controlled. On the stage, you could shape everything: the light, the echo, the timing, until the scene sat just right. Clint grew used to that careful cadence: block it, rehearse it, shoot it, reset. The pace was steady, the air a little cool, the world trimmed to what the camera needed. Then there were the days you stepped onto Mayberry's streets, and the whole crew seemed to breathe bigger. Sun on the storefronts, a breeze that nudged a curtain. The sense of open space, it all changed how a moment played. Marks stretched longer, moves felt freer, and the town they built suddenly behaved like a town. People smiled more. For a kid on the edge of the set, those exterior days were pure fun. The kind you feel in your shoes as you walk the sidewalks and look up at the sky. Working outside demanded a different kind of attention: follow the light as it shifts, protect the tone without the shelter of a ceiling. But that challenge fed the show's warmth. Mayberry looked like it lived because, on those days, it did. And Clint carried that feeling home. The stage taught discipline. The streets taught joy. Together, they made the world of the series feel true, at home. Clint's imagination had its own workshop. His dad kept a little trove of creature masks and oddball movie gadgets, the kind of rubber skin monsters and sci-fi contraptions that looked hokey up close but electric to a kid. You could hold terror in your hands, try it on, laugh at it, then get spooked anyway when the hallway went dark. Those props weren't museum pieces. They were invitations. Put this on. Make a face. Tell a story. The charm was in the make-believe. A cracked latex brow. A stitched mouth. A switch that did nothing but click. Each piece said the same thing Clint heard on set: nothing just happens. If you want wonder, you build it. That lesson bridged the worlds he knew. On Mayberry's stage, craftsmen shaped light and shadow. In the living room, a mask and a flashlight turned a wall into a cave. The line between play and production got thin, and creativity felt like a muscle you use every day. Looking back, Clint reads those shelves as more than clutter. They were a starter kit for a life in stories, proof that even the silliest monster can be the doorway to something true. Clint carries something most of us never get: a moving record of his parents at work and at ease. Episodes, behind-the-scenes reels, and little scraps of film let him revisit their faces at a specific time: the way his dad squared his shoulders before a take, the way his mom's eyes softened when she steadied the day. He can hear their voices again, not as he remembers them vaguely, but as the camera caught them. Growing up in a show family meant the lessons were visible. You could see what commitment looked like at 6 a.m., meant what grace under pressure sounded like when a scene wouldn't land, what patience felt like when a child needed 5 more minutes to settle. Later, when Clint thought about craft and career, he didn't have to guess. The proof lived on film. It's why those images matter so much to him, not for nostalgia alone, but because they explain how a life in stories is actually built. When Clint looks back, the through line is his mother. She was the person who was always there, the steady presence that turned long days into a livable rhythm. If the house felt like it was tilting too much noise from the set, too many moving parts, she leveled it. Quietly, consistently. She made sure meals happened, bedtimes held, and kindness stayed in the room. His father could be a little distant at times, pulled by work or simply lost in his own thoughts. That wasn't neglect. It was the cost of a life built around performance. Mom met that reality with both feet on the ground. She didn't need a spotlight. She needed things to work, homework done, feelings named, bruised egos mended. In a family of storytellers, she was the truth keeper, the one who reminded everyone what mattered when the day got loud. Clint learned from that balance. Discipline without coldness, care without fuss. It mirrored the show's own ethic. Warmth is a choice you make over and over. The lessons from Mayberry were in the scripts, but they were also at the kitchen table, in the way his mother reset the day so everyone could begin again. Strip away the nostalgia, and you're left with choices people made every day. Andy kept the heart of the show in sight. The crew practiced respect like a craft. Black and white wasn't a limitation. It was a design values, textures, light shaped to serve the story. On stage, you learned discipline. On the street, you learned joy. At home, a box of monster masks proved that wonder is built, and a mother's steady hand proved that warmth is a decision you keep making. Clint's child's eye view ties it together. What he saw, patience, care, honest laughs, ended up on screen. That's why Mayberry still feels alive. It wasn't an accident of era. It was a culture. Tell a decent story, protect its tone, treat people well, and the audience will feel it. Decades later, we do. If Mayberry still feels alive to you, help us keep it that way. Like this video so more classic TV fans can find it. Subscribe for new episodes where we open the door to the places and people that built the Andy Griffith Show and the television of the 1960s. Turn on notifications so you do not miss what is next. Tell us in the comments what moment from the show lives in your head. A line, a laugh, a look between characters. If you grew up with the series, share how it shaped your idea of kindness and community. If you discovered it later, tell us what surprised you most when you finally saw it. Share this episode with a friend or family member who loves classic television. Coming up, we will continue exploring how this show was made, why it worked, and what it still teaches about craft and heart. Thanks for watching and for keeping Mayberry in the conversation.